everybody. Welcome back to the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. We are here for you to be that lawyer, someone who's confident and organized and a skilled rainmaker. I hope you're loving the show. If you are, please don't be shy. Tell people about it. We're looking to expand our audience. Ultimately, the goal is and this is my mission through books and podcast and video, is how are we helping lawyers live their best lawyer life, to have a bigger book of business, to scale, to live their dream and get the most out of it. And so I continually, I'm not joking. I'm really working hard to bring in the best guests on a variety of different subjects where you're going to get takeaways and actionable things that you can do to improve your life and may have more free time and more, whatever that means. All right. It's enough of that stuff. Let's get down to it. We've got Nanette waiting in the wings. How you doing?
Hi, Steve. So happy to be here.
Yeah, I had a wonderful trip to Boston. I know you gave me a couple of ideas when I was coming to Boston, but we did the Freedom Trail and we did the lobster rolls. I probably had a little too much lobster. By the way, I didn't know that lobster rolls like $36.
Oh,
Um,
that's good. You got a cheap one this
oh,
season.
that
You
was
got
a
a cheap
cheap
one
one,
Thursday.
39.
That's
Oh my
good.
God. I got lunch for my wife and I, and they were like, that's $100, please. And this was like a quick takeout joint. I was like, okay, I guess
Was it
that's
at
real.
least a good lobster roll?
It was a really
All
good
right.
lobster roll. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Good, good.
Everything we ate there was delicious. So had a lot of fun in Boston. And I'll introduce you in a minute, but let's get into the quote of the show. And my audience, I think, knows that I'm a huge Vince Lombardi fan, even though I'm a Chicago guy. This Vince Lombardi, man, he's got some real winners. And here's one that you submitted. Leaders aren't born, they are made, and they are made just like everything else through hard work. That's the price you have to pay to achieve that goal or any goal. So first of all, welcome to the show, Nanette. And second of all, talk to us a little bit about why you love that quote so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. What I love about that quote is that the idea that anyone can become a leader. You're not born that way. You are made. You can become a leader through hard work, goal setting, and as I'll say for you, systems, right?
Yes, thank you.
Systems.
Thank you. Oh boy.
And I think that really opens up the field. And there's no shortage of causes or organizations or things that need leadership. And people can be everyday heroes and leaders, and they can be big L leaders. But I think the key is that you can see yourself as a leader in different arenas,
Yeah.
and everyone should think that it's just a question of the desire to do so and then putting in the work.
Yeah. It's 100% that, used to, like, everyone thinks rainmakers are born, right? People that just develop it. Look, there are people that have personalities that are maybe more aligned with building business, but ultimately anyone can do it. It's a learned skill. I know this because I teach it. I spoke to a client of mine this morning who's a solid introvert. She is just killing it at her firm, and everyone at her firm is talking about her, and everything's buzzing. And so it's like, it is true. It's hard work, but if you have systems and you have good coaching, or you have someone good in your corner leading you along, it certainly takes a lot of that hard work out of it, because you're getting kind of the keys to the castle. So, um,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Nanette Fridman, you are the founder of Effect Collective and the author of On Board, which you're so lovely that you sent me this book. I had a chance to kind of peruse through it, and a lot of great content there. But give us a little bit of your background, how you came to be, and why you became an expert at working with boards.
Sure, I'll give you the quick version. The quick version is I was one of these people that was on boards from an early age. I was like the student liaison to my university board, and I was fascinated by them. And then I went to work in DC and worked with a lot of boards. And when I was a lawyer, I'm a lawyer by training, I did a lot of work with nonprofit and nonprofit boards at my firm. And I was just always really attracted to the idea that people care about a cause that's bigger than themselves enough to volunteer their time, and they partner with professionals to kind of move the needle. And it
Yeah.
just really appealed to me on so many levels. It's meaningful and purposeful. I like the kind of people it attracts, and governance is one of, I guess I'm a bit of a nerd because I think it's super interesting.
Yeah. It's not been a huge part of my world. And maybe that's one reason that I brought you on the show, is to talk about the fact that there aren't many attorneys that are A, on boards, and B, at least that I'm talking to, and then B, that are actually getting value on the board beyond the charity that they're doing. Like I think of it as
Oh, no, no. We need to change that. We need to talk to every one of the people who have been through your fabulous programs, because every single board needs lawyers and there is so much opportunity. It is like a win, win, win. Yeah, for the organization, but both personally for lawyers. I will tell you that many lawyers that I coach and talk to, they find their board service a way to add meaningful work to augment what they're working on. So let's say your dream in life wasn't to be a construction lawyer and you always wanted to work with animals. Well, working on a nonprofit board that works with animals, that might fill your bucket in ways that allows you to be better at your day job because you feel purpose and meaning.
yeah,
And really for lawyers, there's personal reasons to do it, giving back to your community and meeting people and socializing and that warm glow. But there is even data that tells us there's physical and mental health benefits to volunteering on being on boards. But professionally, it can be a game changer to be on a board, to increase your networks, to raise your profile. You can get leadership opportunities you would never get at your firm for so long, to be the quarterback of big projects. I mean, I know a lawyer who was put on a board because the partner in his firm said, I like this charity. Do you want to be on the board? And the lawyer said, sure, I'll be on the board, because he really wanted to get close to the partner. And he found himself, being the lead real estate counsel for this huge project. He wouldn't have gotten to touch that at the
right.
firm for
Well,
another
but
eight
but
years.
I want to slow you down, which is hard to do because you're shot out of a cannon this morning, which is the way I love it. But the time, I think a lot of it has to do with either the perception of it from a standpoint of time, or just the idea that lawyers are struggling, like they're all fully billable. I'm talking to them about business development. They want to spend time with their families, which is like critical. You got to do that. You don't want to let the world pass you by and you never saw your kids or whatever. So it's like, this is like one more thing we're dumping on top of them. And that's one of the reasons why I think there is maybe a misperception about joining a board and how much time it's going to take. Can you snap that in half?
Yeah, sure. So look, there's all sorts of boards. There are boards that don't have big professional staffs, which require a lot of time from board members. And that probably isn't going to be right for a busy lawyer looking to balance family and work. And then there are very high functioning boards that have evolved from being founding boards to governing boards or institutional boards that have full staffs. And they're asking board members to come 4 times a year for a board meeting, to read the materials ahead of time, and to serve on a committee, and to be fundraisers and fundraisers maybe for the organization. That's certainly doable. Boards that meet 4 to 6 times a year, you can be on the legal committee or provide legal advice when you're needed. I don't think that's too heavy of a lift for most lawyers. And in fact, you're going to get done. We like effectiveness, effect collective. You're going to check many boxes, because when you're going there, you're networking, if you pick the right board, with people that might be, doing the work for your program, Steve,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And in addition, if you're on that board and you can develop relationships to get referrals, also visibility. Many nonprofits that you're on will put out PR about who's on their board, who has, if you're honored by the board, if you have your pictures in your local paper because you go to the events of your board. So I think you have to reconceptualize how you think about this. I mean, I hope that you don't only do it for that reason. I hope you do it because you care about the cause and you want
Right.
to
Right.
advance the mission. But I will also tell you, I think that it's okay to do it because it expands your networks, gets you referrals, and raises your visibility. And that
Yeah.
checks lots of boxes.
Well, and let's take that a step further then too. And this may be where the business development comes in my angle, right? So you're on a board, you show up for the meeting, have the meeting. It's a cause you love. People are great. You're becoming friendly with all these people. Show up for the meeting, leave the meeting. All right, come back next month. Show up for the meeting, leave the meeting. Good or bad?
Well,
Is there more a lawyer could be doing to develop those relationships, to develop the potential business side of
Absolutely.
things. Okay.
Absolutely. It's like everything else. It's what you make of it. So if you're showing up at the meeting and just, there and not really having coffee with people in between the meeting, getting to know the CEO or the executive director, looking at the donors and taking your own donor list to have coffee with. Well, I don't know about you, but if I was a lawyer, I'd love to meet with the donors of the nonprofit because they might have businesses or other things that they're involved with. And
Yeah.
I think that the more you get involved, first of all, hopefully the better you feel about, the time that you're giving because you understand more of how the nonprofit works and what they're doing. And the more that you're in, I think you get called on to do things that are unique experiences. Right.
Yep.
When
Yep.
I was a young lawyer, I was called by a nonprofit that said, "You really love to talk." I said, "What makes you think that?" And they said, "Would you like to be the MC at our auction? Because we think you have a great personality to be at it." So, I mean, you never know what's going to happen when you just start kind of showing up as your authentic self to the board,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you're
Yeah.
the lawyer that, looks at the contracts offline and you don't want to do that. Or maybe you're the lawyer that's really meeting and greeting folks and getting really involved and going to events. And it's your date night with your spouse or your significant other. So you get, again, we're getting twofers. You're having a date night, but it's at the event.
Right, right. So I love that. And again, the idea that you just show up and good, and I'm going to get business from this board. And again, charity first, and then secondary benefit is network, and there could be business there. But you're not maybe doing enough to develop the relationship, to show up at the events, to show how smart you are by being a leader or by solving problems within that group that's going to demonstrate, hey, this is how this guy or gal handles cases. This is, if I can see them work at this level here, how good of a lawyer they should be brought in on my business or be brought in other ways. And I
By the
think
way, not only are
that's,
they a good
yeah,
lawyer, but they're a good person because there
yeah,
are lots of lawyers. And what you have to do to sell yourself in anything is be someone that someone wants to work with. And
right.
if I want to choose between working with a person who cares about the cause I care about and has done a good thing by helping them, or I want to just, work with someone who is only about the dollars and cents, I personally want to work with the person who also gives back to the community.
Yeah,
That's a factor for me in picking my legal representation in the law firms I engage. And so I think you see this all the time that firms are touting their pro bono hours and listings, and this is an extension of that concept, right? It's
yeah,
not about the pro bono hours that your firm is doing, and maybe by the way you get credit in some firms for doing this. That's another thing. Some firms do give lawyers, kind of credit for being on nonprofit boards or encourage them to be
yeah,
on nonprofit boards.
yeah. And so then there's two parts to this. There's, what board do I want to be on? And then how do I get on that board? There might be different, like I might want to get on a board that I'm, that's too, big shot or too far away from me. And I don't know how to get on the board. So how do I pick a board? And then how do I get on the board that I want?
Yeah, great. So even picking a board, I think, is a networking opportunity because
Hmm.
I think you say, okay, what am I interested in? Or what boards are the partners that my firm interested in? Or by the way, what boards are my clients on or interested in? And then start those conversations. I'd love to just hear about your board. How'd you get involved? What's your board service? What does it mean to be on the board? Is your board looking for people to be on a committee? Being on a committee is often a good way to get on a board. So you start by being on a committee, kind of prove yourself, get known, and then join a board. Sometimes for lawyers, you also might do a pro bono project for a nonprofit, and that might be a way that you get asked to be later on the board. Another thing is that, again, you donate, you show up at the events, you volunteer, right? You volunteer. I mean, I know some lawyers that get asked to be on so many boards that it's very overwhelming. And I think that's because legal skills are something that every single board need in one way or the other.
Right.
And lawyers tend to be smart, analytical, strategic people, which is who you want on board. So I think that it's finding what is both advantageous and interesting to you in the right combination by talking to the people who you are either in relationship or want to be in relationship with. And then in terms of getting invited, it's by putting yourself on the list. put yourself on the list by showing up, by volunteering, by being on a committee. And if you really need help, there's this organization that matches people. So you can get matched through, Lee Tucker runs a group called From Board to Board, BORED to
Mm,
BOARD.
cute.
And you
Nice.
can go online and you can kind of fill out and show up for those meetings, and you can see who's interested in finding board members. Same thing with LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn and see who's looking for board members. So there's no shortage of ways to find out. I would also look at my firm's history of where they've done pro bono work, either in the past or areas, and see if that might be a way to dig in as well.
Yeah, and one of the issues that lawyers, especially mid-market big firm lawyers that are dealing with GCs and CEOs in the mid-market, is they don't know where the GCs are and the CEOs are to meet. They're not at the local networking events. So they ask me, where are they? I go, they're at the private clubs and they're on the boards. Like
That's right.
those are the two key areas that you're going to want to explore if you want to network with people who could do business with you directly. Now it's up to you to kind of do what you're saying, Nanette, which is to ferret all that out and figure out which one makes the most sense.
And some
Um,
of the boards are even bigger bang for the buck. I mean, I would say community foundations are probably the best board, or United Way, or anything that's federated or
mhm.
umbrella. Because when you're dealing with, as a lawyer, you're dealing on those boards, you're getting exposed not just to the board you're on, but you're getting exposed to the ecosystem that's represented. So any kind of either federated board or umbrella board that touches a lot of other nonprofits, that's a lot of bang for the buck and a
Yeah.
lot of potential CEOs, decision makers around there.
Yeah, and I want lawyers to interact with the board members and build relationships and all that. And I think there's probably some unwritten rule that you could share with us about do's and don'ts of how to behave on a board. For example, if I'm on the board with you and I've been coming to meetings for 6 months and we just met for the first time, and you run a company and I hit you up for business, probably a no, no, right?
No, no,
What
yes.
would be the appropriate way for someone to approach the timing and the approach for a conversation where we might be able to collaborate on business together if you're a CEO and I'm a lawyer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really about the right opportunity where you've gotten to know each other, where it would be appropriate to ask, would it be okay for me to add you to my mailing list? Would it be
Okay.
okay I'd love to invite you to my firm's holiday party.
Okay.
I'd love to invite you to my firm does a briefing once a year about updated whatever rules that I know might be interesting to you. So I think you have to kind of personalize it a little
Yeah.
bit. And I don't love, showing up and being like, okay, I'm on this board and now please give me business. Because
No, no.
everyone's sitting there and has day jobs, right? And
Right.
so, I was just on a board call yesterday where a woman who sells promotional materials, right? She does swag. And so she said, I'm not soliciting anyone here to use my company. I just want to tell you that we did all the swag for free for this board. And so if you like it and you consider, sending us your business, we would be appreciative, but I'm not soliciting you. And so that was kind of a backhanded,
Okay. Well, more of a like a backdoor way to get the word out without being salesy, but I don't know.
your bio. Right,
Some
right.
people might have been fine with that. Some people might have been like, that's why she did it or he did or whatever. What I would suggest too, because this is in my realm a little bit, is get to know people on the board for a year, spend time with them socially, spend time with them at the events, like show that you're the leader, show that you're the shit, pardon my French. And maybe you get to know them at a level where you're asking questions about their business, where they start to tell you their problems, they start to tell you the things, and whether it's something you can solve or whether you can offer resources, that's going to all come out and they're going to say, hey, is that something you could help me with? Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to, step on any toes here because we're on the board together, but yeah, if you want me to look at that issue, I'm happy to take a look at it. Now you're in the door. So
Absolutely.
it's not a sales approach. It's just a learning and understanding and listening approach that allows you to be a friend and also potentially get out of the friend zone through asking questions, identifying problems.
Always the best way. Listen,
Yeah.
personal is always the best way. And I think you can rest assured that when you join a board, your bio is going to be distributed. People are going to know how to
Mhm.
contact you. Your contact, I
Yeah.
mean, your LinkedIn is going to be shared. So you're going to have already like people when they think, oh, do I know a lawyer? Oh, I do construction law. Okay, I'm going to call that person, or I do real estate law. Like they'll already be aware of you, but that's not enough. They have to do what you're saying, which is, you know, developing that relationship makes me go from being aware of you to feeling that I trust you enough to, make that call to you. And I think that does come from relationship building. And I think it also comes from people watching you in action. People on boards listen to what people say at board meetings and very quickly figure out who talks to hear their own voice and who adds value.
Hmm.
So people can admire you from afar before they have coffee with you, even because they say, wow, that person showed up and they
Yeah.
dug in and they're really adding value. And you get a real big audience potentially quickly to kind of think about who would like to kind of learn more about you.
Yeah. That's really great. Here's an interesting question. How much of being on a board and this is about fundraising? Because that might be a concern for people like, hey, I'm really busy. Now I got to sit and I got to try to hit up a ton of people for money for this charity, for this board. And that's not really their jam or not something that they really want to engage in. So is that a big part of being on a board? That depends sort of an answer?
It is always a part of being on a board because it's a
Okay.
core board responsibility to ensure that the organization has the adequate financial resources it needs.
Right.
You should ask everyone, not just lawyers, before you join a board or be told, what is the board giving policy or expectation?
Mhm.
Some boards insist that you give a certain amount to be on the board. Some say you don't have to give it, but you have to raise that amount.
Yeah.
Some have more general language that say we'd like you to make a personally meaningful gift. And some say we want you to be one of our top philanthropic priorities. So there's different ways that boards say it about your own personal contribution and what you're expected to do to raise from others. But even without asking people for money, everyone is expected to be an ambassador. So to
Right.
raise friends and to and to put your network to avail it to the organization, because that's really the lifeline, right? Because organizations need volunteers, they need other committee members and board members, they need dollars, they need friends. It might be an advocacy issue. You might be a lawyer that is savvy on public policy, and there might be lobbying going on by a nonprofit, right? So
Yeah.
there's lots of ways that you might open your network, and I think you should definitely plan on making a personal contribution in lines with the board giving policy and helping in a way that feels authentic and appropriate to you, with sharing your network.
Yeah. So we've got a few minutes left. What would be your top like three tips for how to maximize their board experience on a couple levels? Number one, network. Number two, the cause. Number three, just potentially getting business, which, again, should not be the priority of anyone that's joining a board. However, what a nice side effect if you can make that happen.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is, get yourself up to speed quickly. Read about what the organization does, its annual report, its strategic plan, the website. And definitely meet with the CEO or the executive director, because the more you know about the organization and then who's been involved. Look at the annual report of who their biggest supporters are. Look who is on the board. Do your homework in advance. Then you can really narrow in not only on how you want to add value, because there are many ways you might not want to use your lawyer skills to add value, by the way. Maybe you're a secret, artist, and maybe you're a lawyer by day, but you're a digital artist by night, and you don't want to use your lawyer skills on this board. You want to use your digital art skills on this board.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to use your lawyer skills, your legal skills on the board. So you need to figure out, learn as much as you can. Figure out how you want to add value. Is it law? Is it something else? Is it your network? And figure out who the players are and make a list. And I'm sure you tell your people this all the time. what gets scheduled gets done. So when
Mm-hmm.
you get on that board, after you get through the nominating committee and you're nominated, if they don't ask for it, you ask for meeting with the CEO, meeting with the development professional, meeting with the board chair, and they should ask for these things. Many of them will. And then schedule your coffees or your pre-board meeting drinks. Never, what is it? Never eat alone, never drink alone. If you're going to a board meeting, you should be, meeting someone for 30 minutes before that board meeting to maximize it. You're going to have a Zoom meeting, stay on 30 minutes after. Schedule those things. And if you do those things, it will have the net effect on all the things you asked about: your network, your cause, and your business.
Yeah. And I think ask about the time requirements too, because you want to understand, is it just one board meeting a month and it's an hour? Is it how much extra time? So there's just a lot of, I think here's a good question that I have about questions. What are 2 or 3 good questions that you should ask someone who's running a board to understand if it's a good fit for you?
Absolutely. Well, you were starting to go there. What is the time commitment, both in terms of regular board meetings? Is there a yearly retreat that I'm expected to block out a whole day for, or a
Mm-hmm.
half a day for? An annual meeting, that's one bucket. Meetings. What is the committee? Am I expected to be on one or more committees? When does that start? And what does that commitment look like? And what are the committees? The giving policy. What is the giving policy of the board? And then I also would ask about what type of events or other obligations that affect my calendar. So for example, some boards require that you attend 4 events a year that they consider to be their signature events or something
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yep.
So you want to look holistically at what's required of your time. And also, it's not just about time. I think you want to find out about, are there other lawyers on the board? Because I will tell you, if you get on a board where there's like 6 other lawyers, first of all, they haven't done a good job, because they should be diversifying their skill set. But you might not want to be on that board, because to your point, that might not be the biggest bang for the buck to sit with 6 other lawyers.
Yeah. It's like going to a conference where everyone does exactly what you do. It may not be the best use of your time.
It might not be the
Um,
best use. So don't be afraid to say, would I be joining other lawyers on this board? And here's one thing I tell everyone to ask: why do you think I'm a good fit for this board?
ooh, I like that.
Right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the answer may surprise you. And maybe because you're a lawyer, and maybe because one of your clients is a major donor, and maybe because you live in the right part of town. It may be because, you have something that they're looking for in terms of other skill sets. So
Or maybe
it's
maybe who introduced you in, right? Like they totally trust this person who's bringing you in, and they said, and
totally.
they've talked you up a big deal. So like that's why.
Totally. And so you want to ask, why do you think, and what are you hoping for me to contribute to this board?
Wow. This is a subject that really hasn't been spoken about on this show, and I'm really kicking myself that we didn't meet and talk 2 years ago, because I think this is such a cool and interesting topic. Thank you so much. Let's move on to our game-changing podcast. You love Adam Grant. That's
Ah,
what you told me. And Rethinking is his newer podcast. Is that what we're sharing today?
yes, I get his. I see so much of Adam Grant. Like, I think my husband's a little jealous. Like, I
Yeah.
listen to him. He comes to my inbox every day. I follow him on all social media. I have every one of his books. I think he is so brilliant because of his observations about, he's an organizational psychologist, right? And so he's talking about how humans behave in the workforce, in society, and how they think and how they should maybe think differently and be more open to rethinking, as is his big thing.
Yeah.
Um, and if you don't know him and you're not a fan girl or boy or person, I strongly encourage you, because I just find him to be brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, he's tip of the spear. Really, really smart guy. Hey, as we wrap up, want to thank our sponsors, Get Staffed Up, Lawmatics, and PimCon, coming at you in September. And check that out on the show notes. And Nanette, if people want to get in touch with you to learn more about what you do and getting on a board, and they want to get your book on board, what are the best digits for them to reach you?
Absolutely. People can go to LinkedIn, and it's Nanette Fridman, but with an I, Fridman. or they can find Effect Collective on there, or go to our website, www.effect-collective.com. You can also find us on Facebook, and our books are on Amazon. So we have Onboard, which is for people joining a board. So if people listen to this and they feel excited about joining, or if you find yourself as a board chair, I wrote a book called Holding the Gavel, which guides people through being board chairs, which I wouldn't be surprised if people follow the advice today and they get on a board. Many a lawyer soon finds themselves being board chair. So you'll have to report back to me and let me know if your people end up in that situation.
Well, are you saying lawyers are control freaks? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying lawyers are great board members,
Ah,
and
okay, just
people
checking.
people love having them on the board, and they often are natural leaders, and so they become board chairs.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Thank you so much. I have just so many notes here and just so much content we covered in a short amount of time. The 30 minutes absolutely flew. Just thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm so happy that we are connected.
As well, thank you, and thanks for what you're doing, because I was a lawyer. It's not easy, and I'm really grateful that you're helping people on the business side so they can focus on the legal side, and make it more enjoyable and meaningful.
Yeah. Now, well, it's my honor and my privilege to be, invited in and welcomed into this brilliant industry that my father enjoyed for so many years, and now I get to, as a non-lawyer, get pulled into it, and it's been my greatest gift to my life, to being a part of this industry. So thank you so much, and hey everybody, thank you for spending some time with Nanette and I today. This is really something special for you all that maybe had thought about boards but hadn't really pulled the trigger, or maybe you're on a board and you're not really getting as much out of it as you could. And so take to heart what we shared today, and be that lawyer, everybody, someone who's confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Take care, be safe, be well. We'll talk again soon.